Welcome back, everyone, to the second episode of Crypto and Coffee podcast. Today I'm joined by our two co-hosts, Cordell and David. So, if you guys want to do like a small introduction for the people that haven't watched the first episode, go right ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Cordell Tanny. I am in Montreal. I am a 25-year veteran of the financial services industry, primarily as a portfolio manager, having managed some Canadian mutual funds for some of our largest financial institutions. And my specialty is in quantitative finance, AI, and I now currently work as a building on-chain active management using cryptocurrency strategies. David.
I'm a founder of, I am pretty much the founder of Orchestra Labs. That's a blockchain that's focused on stablecoins and stablecoin exchanges. It's essentially an on-chain forex, and something that I'm working on right now is, in addition to that, a digital wallet, essentially a decentralized neobank. It's going to be built up over time, but we'll see where it goes.
Okay, cool. Just a little introduction of myself. My name is Giordano. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Orchestra. Orchestra is basically a digital asset platform that hopes to make trading a lot more customizable and give our users a lot more options in the market. So more opportunities equal, I guess, more freedom. So yeah, Cordell, let's start off with you. Tell us a little bit about Token 2049. Just a little overview for anyone that hasn't been there. Just tell us your thoughts and what went on. Yeah.
So Token 2049 is the largest conference in the world regarding blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So it just took place last week. It was 2 days, October 1st and 2nd in Singapore, which, by the way, is an absolutely unbelievable city. I've never been to Asia before. It was my first time in Asia. Getting there was long coming from Montreal, but that city is just stunning. The food is incredible. And I don't think I sat down in any real restaurant the entire time. I just kept going to hawker markets every day, and it was incredible. So the conference, look, there's 25,000 people there, and you are getting the largest names in the business. Everyone that's, all the founders of almost everything are there. There were panels that had the head of the CME group, talking about derivative trading, Tom Lee, who's a portfolio manager, and now the CEO of BitMine, which is a DAT. So, and then was it Justin Sun was there. It was just incredible to see how many, fun sessions there were. And it's a big building. So that Marina Bay Sands location, is just massive. And they did an amazing job of handling 25,000 people. It does get very crowded, especially around lunchtime, but they have multiple places where you can go eat, but it is very crowded. And there's just hundreds and hundreds of booths set up everywhere inside the convention center. And look, a lot of what I was seeing in terms of the booths, again, you're going to have there were a lot of coins. There were a lot of exchanges, a lot of different coins. Crypto is just booming in Asia. That is one of the most incredible things that I saw there, was how just vibrant the entire Asian cryptocurrency community is, even compared to like North America to a certain degree. It was unbelievable. And especially the energy from, the Gen Z, I'm Gen X. So it was just an incredible energy from the younger people there. There were also, though, a lot of just influencers and KOLs. And I just learned that term, KOL, by the way. I had never heard that term before until getting there. But a lot of influencers just there for the photo ops and just getting pictures up onto Twitter and getting the likes. And so, that was just a little bit of the negative aspect of it. But look, it's an incredible experience. But what I learned, for people that really want to get something out of Token 2049 and these kind of conferences, it's not actually about the event itself. It is really more about all the side events that are going on, trying to get into the ones that get you in front of the people that you want to meet. Because, with 25,000 people there and you're trying to find a specific person or a specific company, it's not very easy to do. In my case, I was looking for, let's say, try and talk to venture capitalists. I want to raise money. If you were a venture capitalist, you would not want to be walking around that room because you would have been harassed nonstop by every single person there. So you really need to find the events and the side events that get you in front of the right people. I mean, all in all, it was an incredible experience just because of how much I love that city and I love meeting new people. But like, if you're scared of crowds, this is not the place to go. I don't know. Do you guys have any specific questions? Anything that you wanted to ask about the event?
Well, personally, did you have like a booth or anything? Because like I remember looking at like one of the decks, and I think the booth was like 5K or like 2K. Well, it depends on like the package you normally get, of course, right? Well, you have like banners and all that stuff, right? But did you like get a booth or like how was like the networking? Did you go around to all the booths? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we did not get a booth because we are, it's too early for us, and we're on such a, we need to spend our money right now on essentially getting the hedge fund structure set up and the vaults. We need much more of the stack, and then eventually marketing. It wouldn't have been productive. So the booths, and yes, I was told they are quite expensive. They can be very expensive. So I was seeing a lot of booths in terms of for exchanges. There were a lot of different exchanges, but a lot of what I was also seeing was very gimmicky. There were like sports coins. It was, it was just everything that you could see being turned into a coin was being turned into a coin. There are also lots of people that I think were just there walking around with gigantic shopping bags, taking all of the free stuff they can get their hands on from every booth. Like, I don't know how many t-shirts they needed for companies advertising their coins. So, I mean, there are a lot of booths. I did visit a lot of them. But again, a lot of them were really about coins, like stable coins and more the technology stack, I would say, more, infrastructure and the exchanges. And, but it's just, they're all very gimmicky. Everyone's trying to have these little games and bring people in and stuff like that. And I think I saw more people walking around the booths than I did sitting inside the sessions, unless, it was the one with Donald Trump Jr. speaking or some of the bigger names. So, I mean, it's a gigantic, convention hall. So, I mean, you could spend all 2 days probably just going to every single one of the booths to talk. So I can't really know what the return on investment is. And to be quite honest, I mean, I maybe only knew 5% of the booth, the operators of the booths. I would know it, but AWS has a booth, Google Cloud had a booth. So CNBC has a big spot there too. So it's just a lot of companies I never heard of. And I have a feeling most people never will hear of them because it just looks like, okay, it's just a sign of a very early industry where, everyone's going in and you're going to have a shakeout where only the strong survive. And that is one of the main things I would say from walking around those things is just looking, okay, you can see who has a strong product, who's got a strong demand, or who could have a very strong distribution channel. And then others saying, okay, this is just a gimmick. And, I don't see what can come of any of it. I don't even know where they get the money for in that case to pay for. They have to be doing something right if they have the $5,000 to pay for a booth and then set up a side event. I don't know. Did that answer your question? Did I give you enough of the experience there?
Yeah, that's a lot of the experience. I myself have never been to like a crypto convention, but I'm looking to go to like probably like ETH Global, maybe like Token 2049 in Dubai or Singapore at some point. But it's like a long, I guess, the tunnel dream of mine. But David, have you been to any events, in your entire career?
No, I haven't. Now I've been to other events outside crypto, but in crypto, I haven't. Now this is because I was funding everything myself, and I didn't want to spend money on a maybe. Now, if I had a lot of experience from these events, and I could solidify the chances and know that that I was going to get the best chance possible, then I could spend on one or two of them. But I don't like spending money on maybes. So.
I agree with that. I mean, if I'm 100% honest, I'd say not that going there was that expensive. I was actually pretty impressed with how cheap, I would say, just the overall ticket, getting there and the hotel and all that. It wasn't nearly as bad as I expected it to be. And it's actually not that expensive a city, Singapore. If you look at what it looks like, you think, oh, wow, it's an Asian New York. It actually is not like Tokyo, or not that I've been to Tokyo, but it's definitely not like New York, and it's definitely not like London. So the city itself, a great example, most places in an airport, if you're going to eat at the airport, you know how much they will charge you for anything there. I was able to eat a very good breakfast at the Singapore airport for $6 Singapore dollars, which is on par really for Canada. I'm like, okay, if I had this back in Montreal, they would have probably charged me $40 for 2 eggs toast and a cup of tea. So, but I agree. If you're just, you need to have a reason and a plan for going there. If you're going to maximize the benefit of going to something like this, then you really need to be targeted and know what you're doing. That is definitely the one thing I learned. I mean, again, it was good for me being a rookie in the industry, how much I learned about different aspects of the cryptocurrency business. Would I go again? I would have to say my company needs to be a lot more established, and I would have to have a much more targeted plan for me to consider it again. But David, what I think you might be interested in, because, no, because I don't think the AI side is not as strong for you, right? Because I know they also do the AI. They have an AI conference. I think they're doing one in Singapore in June. And, I'm not sure, because I'm stuck in the middle of the two areas, I would have to consider, is the AI one a better bang for my buck? But there's only one way to know, and that's by trying. But yeah, I mean, you need to have a very good plan to make this worth spending your money on it.
Well, the AI one would be a little bit soon, but maybe one after that, because with the wallet, I've got the routes done. Like it has the auto routing between chains and coins at this point, and I'm going to be putting in the AI. So with that, we'll actually have something that is flashy, as opposed to with the chain where it's all data, and blockchains are a log, like they're a ledger. So what you're showing is data. That's not flashy. No one's gonna care about that. Now with the AI, you're interacting with it. Like you can talk to it and then just see that, yeah, things are happening here. Like it's going directly from this chain to that chain, and all I had to do was say a sentence. So that's a little bit flashier. That is possible. I could possibly go with that, but I would still have to know how can I get in front of these people? How can I get chances to talk with them? And how can I put this in front of them so that way they'll actually take it, instead of going to someone else and then saying, hey, here's a great idea, do this and I'll fund you. Because I had an experience with, I had tried to raise for quite a while, and I even wasted my first year trying to raise money. The general consensus on this is, by the public, not by the industry, but by the public, is that if you have a good idea, you need to just go and raise money. Like, if you have a good idea, they'll give you money for it. Like, you'll be able to build it. But that's not what happens. What happens is, if you have a good idea and you don't already have revenue coming in for it, they're going to go to their portfolio companies, tell those guys to do it, and then they'll be able to make more money off off the investments they already have. If you're rich, though, like here's where the usual consensus of, and my take on the usual consensus is, it's always wrong. But the usual consensus on, it takes money to make money. It does, to a point, like with investments and such, yeah, absolutely. But when people are talking about this, they're not talking about you as a regular guy. They're talking about how if you come from wealth, if you come from a family with money, then you'll have those connections and that people will invest in. You'll have the money that it takes to make money. Like, they're not talking about you with your 401k. They're talking about these people.
Yeah, I agree. David, I'm curious, where would AI, how would you use AI? Like, where would that fit in the process? Like, what would be the best use case for you AI? And like, because we say AI, it's also such a broad term. Like, what kind of AI would you be talking about, and where would it fit in to your process?
In this case, I'm just doing it very, very simply, just agentic workflows. So I've already got the routes. They're handled by the wallet, and they're basically exposed endpoints within the wallet to elsewhere. So they're not embedded in classes or anything. They're very easily callable by other things. So with that, I can essentially have the AI call that I already have the proof of concept for, hook into these routes, and then once I have the intents, which I already have from the proof of concept, just add a little bit to that. And then once I have the intent from what the user said, I just hook it into the route and then go this chain and this coin to this chain and this coin, figure out the route, and then handle it. Because I already have that code in. So all the AI needs to do is figure out what the person's saying, like what they want to do, and then the wallet will handle what they want to do.
Oh, that's cool. So, okay, so it's agentic AI. in testing, I'm just kind of curious also about the GPU use, the GPU requirement that you had, because one thing I was discussing a lot at Token 2049 with a number of people as agentic AI is going to start being used more in a lot of these processes, what the demands for GPUs are going to be like and how expensive it can get. So
that's the problem with the Western AI. Now, everyone in the West only talks about things in the West. Now, you have a lot of things that have been happening even within 2020 to 2024. There have been big changes, and I've had to argue these changes, and I keep hitting the desk. This is a 2-screen laptop, so the top part of the laptop will wobble anytime I hit the desk. So you know exactly what happened anytime that thing goes. But with what's been happening, you have a lot of different changes. Now I'm going to go into a couple of related changes, and then I'm going to come back to that. Now, with for example, U.S. and their soft power. You have movies that used to go out. You have music that used to go out from the United States and games. Well, China beat the U.S. on games. Marvel Rivals is made by a Chinese company, and that's a U.S. IP. And China's doing better with it than the U.S. has. The Tales of Wukong or Blackstone Wukong or whatever that game was. It was a Wukong game. That is a Chinese IP, and China did very, very well with it, whereas Western games are failing. You have Neja 2. That one came out, and it made the most money out of any animated film of the year. But for any Western media talking about it, the West did best. The West came out with another animated movie, and it did not do as well internationally or locally, and Neja did better. What they said, they just excluded Neja from the list entirely. Now, when we come back to AI on that, you have Western media talking about Grok. You have them talking about ChatGPT. You have them talking about Google's Gemini. You don't have them talking about DeepSeek. You don't have them talking about other variations. Now there are multiple. I generally default to DeepSeek, but there are others that operate better. Now with that, the latest ChatGPT, a lot of people were very, very disappointed with that because it did not seem smarter. That's for a reason. ChatGPT is losing money. They're spending a lot of money on this. Now, you have all these plugins and everything that's using them, yes, but you still have a lot of requirements for it. Same with Grok, because Elon Musk essentially has a data center where he has piles and piles of computers all running this thing because it has very high resource costs. DeepSeek can be run on your computer.
Yes.
It operates at 0.1% of the resource requirements of these other models. And what these other models do, what ChatGPT did on their latest release, the reason why it didn't seem smarter was because they were trying to optimize for performance. So they were trying to create a release to save money when DeepSeek already beats them by miles on that. So you have this open source free model that's out that operates at similar levels that's still waiting for its next version to come out because China's getting off of NVIDIA. You have this model that's over there that's free, like just right across the store. You're at a donut shop. You see another donut shop across the store. You're being charged $20 over here. They're selling it for 10 cents, and no one's talking about that.
As long as the donuts are the same quality, of course.
Yeah.
Now, I find that interesting as well because I've been testing DeepSeek a lot more for I'm in the process of testing out agentic AI trading systems. I'm not 100% convinced I'm ready to use agentic AI for trading. For me, it seems a little too new, but it's definitely coming. And yeah, I've come across exactly the same thing is that, especially when you're just learning and testing and cost as an issue, you're going to get topped out very quickly using any of the free tiers on OpenAI or Google or anything like that. So DeepSeek makes it a lot more affordable. That I 100% agree with. Have you ever found, is it just being overblown in the media, security concerns by using DeepSeek that it's, feeding information or something to the Chinese government? Was that ever a concern that entered your mind?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Here's why. We're already feeding data to the U.S. government. We're feeding it to Facebook. We're feeding it to Google. We're feeding it to Microsoft, and they're selling it to the U.S. government. You go over to your barber, they're probably selling your data over to the government. Now, in their case, they're a little bit more public, and for some reason, we see this as different. Like if I hired a spy to follow you around all day and jot notes down about what you're doing, apparently that's illegal. But if you go online and do the exact same thing, that's completely okay. Who knows why? Like apparently the computer is this magical field that changes it into changes the things that are illegal into legal entities. But that's the case. Now everyone in the West is doing this, and other people already know that they're doing this. This is one reason why China's getting off of NVIDIA, because you have backdoors built into every single Western technology so that the U.S. government can spy on you. This is entirely why the U.S. government got so lazy and they're not able to do spying properly anymore. You even had a video come out where they were trying to bring Chinese people over to spy on for them, and it was so obvious what they were trying to do that no one was going to fall for that at all. You have several different instances of this, and that's just the one that comes to mind. They're absolutely inept at what they do at this point. Now, with the Chinese government, are they really going to care whether I bring them a list of chains and coins and show and ask what is the user trying to tell me they want to use here? Are they going to care about that? I don't think so. Especially when all the requests are coming from one point. It's like, okay, this guy's running a business and he has a lot of people asking about which coin to use. Okay, great. That what are they going to do with that information? I'm not giving them any financial information. I'm not giving them any transaction information. All I'm doing is saying, what is this user telling me? Now, if that user chooses to say some things about their own case, like they go on there and they start talking about their personal life or anything, sure. But I've got tightly bound parameters on this proof of concept, and so it's just going to return a null in this case. Like we're not going to do anything with it. If they choose to give that to the AI, that's on them. Now, the thing about DeepSeek though is it's open source. It's not just free, it's open source. You can go over onto huggingface.co and grab that model and put it onto your own server, which I'm actually going to do after this gets up. Like once it starts bringing in revenue, I'm going to put it on my own server because that'll make it cheaper. And then I'll be able to run it from there. And I'll be able to update it from there anytime they come out with a new model because it's completely open source. I would absolutely like to give some money back to them, but I have no idea how to do that. So like in this case, I would absolutely, like, a lot of people aren't fair to open source companies that like they're just like, oh, that means it's free. Let me take it and then never give anything back. I absolutely want to give back, but I don't know how to in this case. So what I would do is get some revenue off of data that no one's going to care about. That is entirely just telling me this what this person said means this in terms of code, and then make it cheaper for myself when I'm able to by running that model on my own server.
That's very well said. You know, and by the way, if anybody feels like they need to hire a spy to follow me around, I'll tell you right now that person's going to be very, very bored. So the other interesting thing, by the way, about the open source stuff, you know, it's something that I noticed also because there was a good session on Telegram. So I missed a little bit about it, and I was upset that I missed it. But there was one company I came across, I think it was called Ton Strategy, T-O-N Strategy. And what they are building into Telegram now, I believe they are starting to build integrating wallets into Telegram and to start being able to trade directly through Telegram and to, you know, as a complete alternative to, let's say, Venmo or any whatever each country has for payment processing. I found that really, really interesting, you know, because you know, I do a lot with Telegram, not just as for personal communications. It is my preferred messaging service that I have, especially with people all over the world. But it is open source as well, and that's the other interesting thing. At least that's what they were saying, because it's open source. That the amount of things that can be done through Telegram represent really an interesting opportunity. And it's like, oh, I got to start looking into that as well. And it all just feeds into this, you know, this whole narrative of how companies like DeepSeek or Telegram, the open source, is really, you know, how many doors that could open and ideas that could generate for companies that can't necessarily afford the resources constantly of going through Western technology for that, you know, just like you were saying, David. So It's another interesting thing. I got to check out more into what I was learning about this company. TON, I think the symbol on NASDAQ is TONX for the company. I don't know much about them. It's not financial advice, but it's definitely something I want to see what they're doing also through Telegram and how that's being used with the whole AI and the cryptocurrency, because I think there's a lot coming out in that space right now, and that's something that I would be keeping an eye on. I just think it's really fascinating. There's so many of these new things that can be done, and just the open source, I think, just really generates a lot more potential for a lot of different companies. So yeah, I'm going to probably start using DeepSeek a little bit more as I build out more of the agentic AI, because cost, pretty much it's cost, and GPUs are an issue. I was explaining to someone the other day for, just a couple of use cases for AI in certain industries. And like, yeah, you want to have an agent doing that 24/7 with image recognition and video analysis, like that's going to get pretty costly. Your server costs and GPU costs are going to be through the roof.
Yeah.
Through the roof.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, just
Gio, back to you, man.
Yeah, just to expand on what you said about like the TON strategy, right? I've recently just been like looking at some other startups, and some of them are like making bots to like trade from Telegram. So like, how like you have social login where you can go into Discord, Telegram, Google, and all that stuff, right? So one thing that we're doing at Etc., we're also looking into that, where you can like put like a slash trade command, put like the asset and put like the amount that you want in like a Telegram chat. And like that would also like probably send it to like a server, and you can like trade right on the Telegram. Like you don't even need to like download our app, as long as like your social login is connected, right? This could be done for like Discord, any community channel, like Telegram, even WhatsApp. Like a lot of people like also don't even like use Telegram because they like WhatsApp.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I mean, I'm, a lot of my current strategies that I'm running, my investment strategies, like I send myself an email. It's automated, but I'm using SendGrid, and any of these mail delivery things, they get expensive. Not that it's that expensive, but I'm starting to convert all of my generations, like the log trackings and everything like that. They're now all going. I'm going to be routing everything through Telegram. So instead of using SendGrid and receiving an email, so just to make sure everything works, right? Like I have an hourly check that something's still working. So this way, I'm going to be doing everything through Telegram now, just to get a little, a ping saying server's up and running. Don't worry, you can sleep, or just your trades were executed, things like that. So I'm switching all of my bots over to Telegram in the next few months once I have the time to do everything. And Telegram, when I first wrote my first automated trading system about 5 years ago for cryptocurrency, maybe it was even longer, 5-6 years ago, it was all done through Telegram. It was a Telegram bot that would execute everything.
So I think I should incorporate that, right? Like just like say for instance, we have like servers that just check like the status of servers on the back end. I think we can probably route that to Telegram for our admin problem. Actually, that's actually a good idea. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Well, hey, look at that. Hey, we get crypto coffee and idea generation. Hey, all in a 45-minute podcast. Yeah. It's really interesting with the, I mean, look, there's just so much going on. Like I know we said this, in our last podcast, everything we said today could be obsolete 2 weeks from now. And, the other interesting thing actually that I found from Token 249, I think it was one of the first presentations. I don't remember who it was, but I'm not sure if it was someone from Coinbase, but they were discussing digital identity and how moving all of this stuff over to the blockchain is going to happen and how much better it is. Like, in other words, having your passport, because of how much can be forged nowadays. Like it's with AI, it's very easy to replicate a passport. Yeah. So they're now putting everything into blockchain. So you should have your passport. All of your digital identity is now going to be coded through the blockchain, and how much better that will be just for overall, global security in terms of identity and personal information. So that's one incredible use case that I was seeing coming out of all of this is what, the digital identity. I think there's going to be a big push into that space. And what was the other one? It wasn't just the digital identity, but I'm drawing a blank there, but it was actually really interesting to see what what this person was presenting about it and how it can be used and the advantages. And the other thing is also, let's say for schools, universities, your university diploma and all that, how easily that can be faked. So that's another huge use case here, is pushing all of the universities to start getting the credentials and everything on the blockchain so that everything's 100% verifiable. And then you pretty much stop all of the fraud from, people saying, yeah, I went to Stanford and, here's my diploma, and it's not real.
Yeah, completely.
Actually,
That's the thing about like the blockchain. Yeah, that's the thing about like the blockchain. Like you can't replicate any of like the blocks itself. Once it's created, it can be edited, right? So like let's say for instance, right, just start something about. But like let's say for instance, right, you can just like get like a digital passport. You can have it in like I guess your Phantom Solana wallet, whatever the case it may be, and that you can probably show it at like the airport. I guess they can probably scan it when you're going through I guess a TSA or immigration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, they already have this. I mean, I have what's called a Nexus card in Canada. It's like global entry. So for US, it's the equivalent of global entry. It allows me to go through the TSA pre-check, and when you're going over the border, whether land or air, it's like you're a low risk traveler, and you just pretty much go through very quickly with very minimal questions and everything. So there was one time I was driving from Montreal down to New York City, and I get to the border and I get to the booth, and as I pull up to the booth, the agent just says, "Good morning, Cordell. Where are you going today?" And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't understand how. I guess how maybe he had my license plate in the car, or he had the license plate, so he just knew who I was based on the car. But I was shocked. I pulled up there, and the guy just knew who I was without me even open my mouth. And then this happened to me this summer when I was going back down over a different border. They said, and this one doesn't even have a Nexus lane, a lane for the priority. And it said, "Do you have the card of someone named, like a Nexus card in your car?" And I'm like, no. I'm like, that was one of the weirdest questions anyone had ever asked me when going over a border. It turns out all of these cards have these chips in them, and your passports have them also, that they have a reader before you even, as you're pulling up to the booth, they're reading it, right? So it's really cool just what they have in terms of the technology. And that's why I guess she said that the agent had said they were doing some systems upgrades, and she was getting like weird things like that all day. But it just set off in my mind, like, oh my God, I know that even if you go to the UK nowadays, right, and you have to fill out that extra, they have requirements now, the UK, that you have to fill out within at least 3 days before you arrive. And you can do it by the app. And the app, you press your phone to your passport, and it read it and verified the information on your passport. David, did you do this as well?
No. I thought you were going in a different direction with that. So
no, I was freaked out by it. I just want to say I was freaked out by it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe, because there's a chip in your passport and your phone was able to read it.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, David.
Yeah, I see the good and the bad on digital ID for the blockchain. One being the digital ID itself. Now that is helpful in a lot of places. If you want to put in your information, for example, if you've got a student loan site that you have to get into to deal with all that stuff, which basically most Americans know about, that's really going to help simplify that process. Same with FAFSA and all that stuff. All those things that Americans have to deal with in order to get that opportunity of getting $500,000 into debt. Now, with this sort of thing, you have the benefits like that. You can go over to the liquor store, you can buy it without ever having to show your ID and having to go through all that, because they already know you're old. All that stuff. That's great. It's verifiable. It's really great on the side of VCs, for example, because now I never did this. It really would have been helpful if I did this, but I didn't do it. If I went and told them that I'm from Stanford, that school that you guys love and all that stuff, like invest in me, that sort of thing, like they would have they would have gone for that. They'd been like, oh yeah, he's an Ivy League guy just like me. Let me throw some money at him. But that there are downsides to this. One, in that we've seen very, very recently. Now, there have been other pushes for this, like for example in COVID and stuff. Like we've had examples of this, where they will push for a digital ID, much like what China has, where they can essentially turn it off, which they did in a couple cases. Now, everyone called this a conspiracy, but as we've seen for multiple years, there's a difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact of about 6 months. Now, in the UK's case, they recently rolled out a proposal, like, oh yes, we see that you're all worried about these migrants coming over. So here's what we're going to do: we're going to roll out a digital ID, and none of you will be able to work unless you use this digital ID. And he literally said that you will not be able to work unless you have this. So, like, there is a downside to this because they're only going to be going after the law-abiding citizens on this. The ones who are already breaking laws and such, they're going to be fine. It's only you who's following the law who's going to have difficulty. You think the drug dealer is going to have difficulty selling drugs if he doesn't have his digital ID? No, it's entirely for you in order to help crack down on you.
Crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think the digital identity thing, I mean, look, these were presentations by people that are saying, this is what I'm interested in. This is where I think everything's going. It's going to take time. I think a lot. Well, I think, again, this is an early industry. We're going to be seeing ideas like this coming out every day, and the winners will survive. It will be survival of the fittest, but it's going to be some very interesting times coming up, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen, and just excited to see what's coming out, and excited to see what survives.
Yeah, we'll see what comes. It was not anything too bad.
Next 5 years.
Well, look, there's the other issue with the way speed's going is like, yeah, there's just the potential for so many evil actors to do bad things. Just like in any industry, I'm sure 5,000 years ago, when all new technologies come out, there's always a few people that can say, hey, I can do this to do something pretty bad and hurt other people. I think sadly that's been part of human nature. It's just the way we evolved. But let's stay positive and see how it goes.
Yeah, it was actually something I used to go to this those rich boys clubs. I used to go to one of those. Now there are those in every city. I used to go to one, and it was just a place to eat and meet other people. And
like an old boys club kind of thing, like you're talking about, like that, like an old boys club with the fancy wood and all the private clubs, like that.
That has a new term now, so we should probably elaborate on that. Yeah, it was more like the golf club type of thing, and not the newer term.
Country club.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a newer term for it.
Yeah, like a gentleman's club is a strip club. Like,
no. Like, to me, sorry, that's when I say the old boys club. It's just it's just the patriarchy meeting with their cigars and their scotch in a very fancy place with the butlers. It's like what you would have seen. They still exist, but
yeah, they did. They had the mahogany wood all over the place. They had the cigar events and things like that. It was very literally that. So like they found out that I was a researcher on AI, and they kept on inviting me back, like, hey, come to this talk, come to that talk, and all this stuff. Honestly, should have done something in AI rather than crypto, but I wanted to create a base for all these other businesses that I wanted to start, so I went that way. Now with that stuff, like one of the talks that they had brought me in for was the possible benefits and detriments of AI. One of the things that I brought out was criminal justice. Now, all these things, because there was very literally a string of cases where this was attempted to be used, and it ended up going in the wrong direction. Very literally racial, on racial lines. Now, there's a lot that can be dived into here, but on racial lines, it kept on picking out people entirely due to race that were less likely to reoffend than people of another race who were more likely to reoffend. And with everything else being equal, it entirely picked entirely on race. So, like, if you had a guy who had committed a crime 5 times, and he was of race A, and you had another guy who had never committed a crime, and he was of race B, but race B was the one that it kept on picking on, then it would pick him. Even though he's never committed a crime before, and even though it would be wrong in this case and in future cases, it would pick that guy as the more likely to reoffend. So I used cases like that, and I used others in order to show that, yes, that there are downsides to this. You have to be very, very careful with it. and then also the one where like Google classified black people as gorillas, and then they entirely removed the ability to identify gorillas as the fix instead of adding more data.
I was not aware of that one.
Yeah, that happened. And then to show like here's why you want more data, I also introduced a picture of a white guy next to an orangutan, like a redhead guy, and said like, do you think there's anything that might be picked up here by the AI that would say that these two photos are very, very similar? And then everyone was like, oh, I'm not being racist. They actually look similar. Yes, they're both apes, like we are apes, and then they have the same color. Yeah, I think the AI might be picking up on that. So yeah, like you're going to have similarities. That's why you add more data, so that way it can figure out here's the difference. It doesn't know the difference between a baby and an 80-year-old until it actually filters through the data. So like, you have to provide context to these things, but but people don't know that. So coming back to it, you have all these possible detriments, but this is a new tool. With any tool, with any single tool, hell, even without tools, you have a good use and a bad use that's possible. You get a knife. The UK absolutely hates knives right now. They even had knife pins and everything. You get a knife and you can stab someone with it, sure. You can also cook a meal with it. And someone would find that meal very, very helpful. Like you give it to a homeless guy, and that'll make his day. Like you make a terrible meal, absolutely. That's gonna ruin someone's day. But if you cook it well, so this is an example. You can do something good with a tool. You can do something bad with a tool. You have a hammer. You can build a house. You can whack someone on the head.
Yeah.
So in every single case of a tool, you can do something good with it. You can do something bad with it. All it is an amplifier to what you were going to do. So in the case of AI, if you wanted to ruin people's lives and put them in a cage, you absolutely could do that. If you wanted to better people's lives and make them more efficient with their day and move society forward, you could do that too. But it's entirely up to the people who have the power and what they're going to be trying to do with it.
Pretty much sums it up. Very true. All right, Geoman, back to you.
Yeah, honestly, David said it pretty well. I couldn't say it better myself.
Cool.
Anything else that we can talk about? I guess we have like a few more minutes before we can end off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we should to finish it off. I think we should let our listeners know what we have planned. I think some of the stuff that we want, we've been planning this now, trying to figure out. We want to give topics out there that we know people are interested in, and things, especially new things that are coming out. What we as developers, practitioners, entrepreneurs, what we're seeing, and share all of this knowledge. So, Gio, why don't you give a little bit of a sense for everyone out there, what kind of topics and other things that we will be addressing in our future episodes?
Yeah, so the whole premise of the podcast is to address things on AI, Web3, fintech, technology itself, right? We can get a little bit more niche talking about stuff like neobanks, specific data sets, how we do certain processes when trading certain models regarding AI, right? But essentially, technology is a very fast-paced industry, so we can be basically talking about anything going forward, right? So hopefully we can do this like weekly, bi-weekly, but over the course of those 2 weeks, there's a lot that's going to be happening that we can talk about, right? So just to fill you in, just to answer your question, Cordell.
Yeah, no, I just want to get people excited. I want people to know that, the kind of topics that, we're going to talk about digital asset treasuries. That's a kind, we're going to keep addressing tokenization and all the stable coins, everything that's coming out there. And, especially one of the things that I learned is that Solana is becoming more and more the dominant chain that people are starting to build on. We're starting to see a lot more of the layer twos working off of Solana. So we're going to start addressing all of these topics. And, I think we're going to have a lot of amazing information to share with everybody out there.
Yeah, completely agree with you.
Great. So that should be it for, let's say, this is week 2 wrap up for the podcast. Yeah. Gio, do you want to do you want to close it out for us today?
Yeah, I guess, thank you guys for coming out. Just, leave a comment, share the podcast around, leave a like, tell us what you want to hear us talk about. Like, I guess the episode 3, anything is good with us. I love, like, the information Tanya and, David is giving me. Honestly, I'm learning a lot from you guys. You guys are giving me a lot more ideas than you guys think. I'm just letting you know that from now.
Hey, this is fun. Look, there's nothing better than 3 guys who barely know each other coming together and sharing ideas. Makes life so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, this honestly is like how do I say it? Like a change of pace from everyone's like normal I guess content creation. Just a little bit fast paced. We're just trying to have fun with it.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you very much, guys. Let's wrap up this week and thank everybody out there for listening. We love you and hope to see, we not hope, we know you'll be there for our next episode coming out in 2 weeks.
Definitely.